Well, good evening and thank you very much for joining us one more time for Scoreboard. We missed you as much as you did miss us last week. And now we are back. We had to show you a couple of other things that are going on in the world of sports in the last week's edition. Now, again, we are here. And there are a couple of things that have caught our attention, especially this past week going on in the world of sports. Now, a couple of things that we'll be looking at is the World Championships. It's still going on in Budapest in Hungary. There's a lot of events that are going on there, some not conforming to what you expected. Some crashes, especially from the Netherlands, crashing just about 5 meters to a medal in 2 instances. If it was in Africa, you know what would have been saying about what happened to them there. But that's one of the things we'll be looking at. Plus the fact that Sha'Carri Richardson takes the women's 100 meters race and wins it in championship record, while Omanyala in the men's event falls short and doesn't get onto the podium. This is some of what we'll be talking about. Plus, again, we'll look at Kenya's performance individually at the World Cup, with Faith Kipyegon giving Kenya another gold in the 1,500 meters. And what a run she gave, very, very intelligently, sprinting up to the front and keeping it there and using up all the energy to win it. Plus, we'll be talking about the South African Schools Games and what happened in Rwanda, with Kenya winning the bulk of what was on offer there. And then we'll also touch a little bit on what is happening in Cameroon, in Yaoundé, on volleyball. This and more will come up in one moment in the Scoreboard. And then, of course, I'd like you to join us in the discussion as well. And that means you can tweet us and talk to us. The simple question, not even a question, I want you to make a comment today about Faith Kipyegon's prowess in athletics. Do you think she's the greatest of all-time women athletes? Do you think that Faith Kipyegon is the greatest of all-time women athletes? I am at Bernard_Sports, and at Wilfred Bungay is where our Twitter handles are at. Let me jump straight into introducing the captain, Wilfred Bungay. It's good to see you here. I thought you should have been in Budapest, but that's another. I know your heart is there as well. I know your spirit is there as well. But have you been watching what's going on there?
Well, absolutely, Bernard. I've almost watched every race, that has been going on there. And I think, the question that you are going to ask me is what worked. And I think, I've got a lot
Yeah, let's go to what worked for you in the week.
Yeah, I think so many things hasn't really worked, and especially when you look at the competitions that we have there in Budapest, it's not so impressive. If you look at most of the events that has gone on at the moment, if you look at what our tradition races that we normally dominate, we are not really doing very well. And I think one, I'm disappointed, with Emmanuel Korir, defending world champion. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, that is my event, and he's out. But however, the beauty of it is something worked. Malkia Strikers, again, for the 10th time, they have won the African Championships. And that is something that is very impressive for me.
Excellent. So that is what worked for you. Okay, nothing did not work for you. Everything worked for you in the week.
I said so many things didn't work. For example, the 800 meters, the events that has gone on in Budapest is not really impressive. If you look, we are past halfway in the championships, and so far, we have only 3 medals: 1 gold, 1 silver, and 1 bronze.
Yeah. Okay, great. Nice to hear that as well. Let me tell you what worked for me. First of all, a Kenyan was elected vice president of World Athletics, and of course, we have other vice presidents from all the different confederations. But with the retired general getting a nod for the vice presidency, it's a good thing for Kenyan and African athletics. And the other thing that worked for me is the fact that this man, Abraham Kibiwott, he fell. He clipped the water jump.
Yes.
And no, it wasn't the water jump. It was a dry one. He clipped the dry one with his left foot, the one he was trailing behind, and fell. But that did not stop him from picking himself up and going all the way again onto the podium to get a bronze medal. That's in the steeplechase. Now, that is what worked for me in terms of what he did as well. But what did not work for me is the fact that, again, Kenya did not win the gold in the 3,000-meter steeplechase. So we are still having to battle with Sofiane El Bakali of Morocco in this event. 8 minutes, 3.53 seconds. And then Ethiopia's Lamesha Girma taking the silver. Now, also, the other thing that didn't work for me in the week is the fact that the African continent and East Africa lost a coach in the name of Sam Timbe in Uganda, but we know him. He has coached here in Kenya as well, and we can only pray that his soul rests in peace. He was coaching Uganda Revenue Authority. Now that we've gotten onto that, let's get into the action itself, the World Athletics Championships. Have you watched everything that was going on there?
Well, I've watched, and I can tell you, Bernard, from day one, if you look at every event that was going on there, from 100 meters men, 100 meters women.
Let's actually talk about the 100 meters. Now, there was a lot of expectation. It had been said that Africa will win its first medal in the World Championships in this year's event. And in fact, it was being said to be Ferdinand Omanyala. But that did not work that way, did it?
Well, I can tell you that Ferdinand, was not only carrying the Kenyan flag, but he was also carrying the African flag. If you look at the hype that was there, and even from the top athletes, the world athletes, the retired ones who are running 100 meters or 400 meters, for example, Michael Johnson, he said that this is his chance. And there's something very important that I would like to mention here, Bernard. If you remember, immediately he ran, I think, in Monaco when he won, and I say that this is high chance for him to be able to stop any competition. Look at Noah Lyles. Noah Lyles, this was his second competition. You see, something very important, and I think from an athlete point of view, it is always very important for you to prepare for a major championship rather than you running so many races. However, for Ferdinand, if you look the way he ran in the first rounds, he was very good. He was in the same hit.
He actually said that
he was actually in the same hit.
He said his body stopped firing after the quarterfinals. He wasn't firing even in the semifinals. What does that mean?
But what do you expect? I mean, you have 2 races in a single day, and then you are going to have the semifinals and finals on the same night. The question is, you have a lot of competition, and therefore you cannot afford to go to a world championships when you have been competing every other competition.
Okay, we'll talk about that when you're talking about the Kenyan specifically, but we're just talking about the 100 meters in general. Let's say Letebogo then wins Africa's first medal at the 100 meters.
Absolutely, and I mean, that is something that is huge, because for a very long time we have always known 100 meters is either Jamaicans or Americans or Jamaicans living in America. Yeah, exactly. But at least for the first time, we have one of our own from African soil, being able to win. And do you know that this win of his actually was a photo finish? There were 3 on the photo finish, and in fact, he won by 1,000th of a second ahead of Great Britain's runner. That is 100 meters for you, Bernard. 100 meters is something that actually, it is so difficult to tell who is the winner. Most of the time, it does not take a naked eye for someone to be able to see and notice who won, but it's always a photo finish, and that's why you see what we see in 100 meters. Sha'Carri Richardson, Shayla Fraser-Price, and Shericka Jackson. That was another rivalry that we expected to produce a world record. In fact, the most watched, okay, forget about 100 meters men. If you look in the past, everybody always waited. But for the 100 meters women, with Sha'Carri, always, Sha'Carri, she's very flamboyant, and she's very light off her feet as well. Even off the blocks, she's very fast. But Shayla, remember that she had an injury before. I believe age again is catching up on her, and that's why she was not able to. But again, Sha'Carri was in the form of her own, and that's why she was able to obliterate everyone. Yeah. Well said. Now, 2 things happened to 2 runners from the same country. Now we're talking about Netherlands. Sifan Hassan, competing in the 10,000 meters, falls just short 10 meters before getting to the podium, and this is also after Femke Bol as well had also had a fall about 5 meters from the finish, from the podium as well. What do you think happened in that situation? Well, it's so disadvantaged, and I think for Netherlands teams, those were 2 clear goals that they were having in their hands. However, give it to Sifan Hassan. I watched the race, and I've rewatched and rewatched. The point is, when you are running out of energy and you just want to finish your race, let's say, for example, because if you watch the race, she was almost leaning, like, she wants to do a photo finish kind of. But of course, she was still having about 5 meters or 3 meters, before she finishes, and that's why she was able to fall. Okay. It's unfortunate that she never managed. However, I believe, she's one of the greatest athletes. Remember, Bernard, Sifan Hassan ran a marathon not so long ago, about 2-3 months ago. You can imagine when you run. She ran the 10,000 and the 5,000 meters. Yeah, the 10,000 and the 5,000 meters. So you have got to give it to her. And then now for the mixed relays, USA had no chance, especially with the Netherlands, because already they had opened a cup. And I think, again, this is almost the same thing that happened to Siva Hassan, whereby when you are running, you just want to finish, because I think she was running out of energy, and she knew the American was coming towards her, and therefore, that is why she was able to fall down.
Okay, well, that's a little bit of what's happening at the World Athletics Championships. Almost in general, there's a lot more that is going on. In fact, News In just says that Wanyonyi has just won his heat in the 800 meters, and that means that Captain here will be very happy. That's his event as well. But even as we move on,